Mordenkainen, Master Wizard, Multiverse Traveler, friend of Tasha, and other great beings across vastness of D&D. He documented all the amazing and beautiful beings and creatures and that he encountered on his journey and gave us all the monsters of the multiverse. Hi, I'm Justin. With me today is Brady. And he has really delved into the changes in the races that we see in this book. And there's a lot here that, like, some of the races have changed some over the years, but they dropped a lot of new, both lore and mechanics changes on us. So, Brady, there's a lot here. I opened this up, and there's just it's much.
It's just 4 pages of 12-point or 11-point Arial font, single space.
Like it's Charlie in front of the, like, unraveling the post scheme. Like, you're just, like, going mad, and you need to give us a rundown of what's happening.
I went full mad scientist making this. I'm looking at Multiverse of Monsters. I'm pulling source books out from behind me. I'm comparing notes, looking at differences, looking up what source book they originally appeared in, if they've appeared in multiple. And this is a mind fever of work. Wizards of the Coast had announced this book a while, and it's been teased and anticipated ever since. And back in January, you could buy a 3-book set that had an early release of this book in it.
Yeah, it was like a soft release.
Right. But the rest of us plebeians had to wait. We had to wait.
I prefer my releases hard.
Yeah. It gives us, as players, 34 races. Most are repeats from other source books, but it definitely makes it easier to find the information you're looking for when it's all in one book.
Yep.
Trust me, I just did it all. It's a lot easier when it's in one place. I'm not going to go over every single race in this book today, as we would be here all night. Literally. So I've picked a few to go over, and if it's a race that was released in an old book, we'll compare it to see if there's any differences. Before covering the races, it's important to note how Mordenkainen's Multiverse of Monsters changes character creation for all of them. When choosing ability scores, you choose 1 score to bump by 2 and another to bump by 1, or 3 scores to bump by 1. This changes a lot of races right off the bat, because previously, depending on the race you chose, you were pre-given stats to bump.
Right, so now there's...
now you get to choose.
Oh, my word.
And that's on the previous ones, when you were given the stats, most of them were bumped by 2 and then 1 bumped by 1. But this also gives you the options to just bump 3 scores by 1 instead.
This is also a great way to bump some of the other ones that didn't have as many bumps before, you know?
This is also a min-maxer's dream.
This is a way of accounting for different kinds of ability scores, and you can unlock some of the other racial traits.
Yes.
Focus on that instead of what you get as far as just bumping stats, instead of spending skill points to do that. Yeah.
Common in one other language which you and your DM agree upon, it specifically states you have to agree with your DM on what other language you know. That's not just me being a greedy DM, that is what the book said. The average lifespan for all non-elves and dwarves has been changed to be around a century or so. But if a creature's race often lives past a century, it is described in the description of that race.
I would also presume that if you have some, like, elven and dwarven lineage, well, more so elven, dwarves aren't quite known for their half-breeds, you know. But if you have some elven lineage, I would expect that to be at least on the high end of that century.
Right, and it does go on to say that dwarves still live a couple centuries, while elves live to be beyond 750 years old. That hasn't changed, but every other race that maybe normally only lived to 20 or 30 years now has a lifespan up to around a century. Lastly, all creatures have a generic height and weight based on their size, but the players can either choose their exact height or roll on the random table in the player's handbook, so long as what you're choosing or rolling still fits within the guidelines for your race as presented in this book. Which, I don't think that's changed a whole lot, but it is good to note that they specifically stated it.
Right. To put the wording in there so there's just no question about it now.
It also appears that Wizards of the Coast has completely done away with alignment based on race, as none of these racial options have typical alignments anymore. But that's not surprising, as rumors that this was going to happen have been going around for the better part of a year.
Yeah, we had heard about it with the drow primarily.
Yes, but they went on to do it with every single one of these 34 races.
Let's open up the stories, folks. Why not?
We're going to start off with the Fairy. It was originally released in the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, the Feywild campaign setting that came out in 2021. Fairies, as most people know them, are tiny winged creatures that possess great magical capabilities. In D&D, however, they're larger than pixies and sprites, but not by much. They originally spoke Elvish, Goblin, or Sylvan, but over time as they interacted with humans, many of them learned Common as well. Every fairy has a unique characteristic to separate them from the rest of their kind, and Multiverse of Monsters gives a D8 table to either choose from or roll on, and some of your options are: your wings look like those of a bird, you have exceptionally large ears, you have a small spectral horn on your forehead like a little unicorn horn, or you smell like freshly baked brownies. Now, don't ask me where they're getting these brownie recipes, but I guarantee they're delicious.
Somebody's got them. Probably the halflings. I'd bet them.
Mm-hmm. They definitely wandered into the Feywild to get some brownie recipes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
If you choose Fairy as your race, you're considered a small creature and have a walking speed of 30 feet, as well as a flying speed equal to your walking speed unless you're wearing medium or heavy armor. Then you no longer get your flying speed. Because you're small, if you're wearing medium or heavy armor, it's going to weigh you.
Right, it's going to be too much. Far too much.
This race also gives you some innate magic with the trait Fairy Magic. You automatically know the Druidcraft cantrip, and starting at 3rd level, you can cast Fairy Fire, and at 5th level, you can cast Enlarge/Reduce. Once you cast either of the leveled spells using this trait, you can't cast that spell again until you finish a long rest or use a spell slot to do so. But it gives you one free use of both Fairy Fire and Enlarge or Reduce per long rest. And then you can cast Druidcraft at will because it's cantrip. You also get to choose from Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma as your casting modifier and decide which one when you choose this race. So because some of those require casting modifiers,
cool.
And say you want to play a martial character with it though, you still need a casting modifier, so it lets you choose. And the Fairy is exactly the same in Multiverse of Monsters as it is in the Wild Beyond the Witchlight. There were no changes except for possibly how you bump your stats in the beginning and the alignment.
Yeah. I like that. I hadn't heard of that one.
Mm-hmm. They did a lot of cool things with a lot of these races. Next up, we have the Gif Yankee, a race formerly enslaved by the Mind Flayers. The Gif Yankee split away from their cousins, the Gith Zerai, and decided to head towards the Astral Sea. Spelljammer, here we come.
That's exactly where they originally came from. That is 100%. I am, like 99.9% Gif Yankee made their first appearance in Spelljammer.
During their time in the Astral Sea, they honed all of their psionic powers, even built a grand city named Tunarath. The Gif Yankee chose to spread out from the Astral Sea and to travel to many places in the multiverse. When they did so, they would form outposts called creches to allow their children to reach adulthood in safety. They have yellowish-brownish skin tones with hints of green, and are as physically powerful as they are psionically. They get something really cool. They can use their power, their psionic power, to learn knowledge left behind by beings who died among the clouds of the Astral Sea. Basically, if you died in the Astral Sea, a Gif Yankee can use the knowledge you learned to benefit them. And if a Gif Yankee decides to reside in the Astral Sea, they can live indefinitely. If you choose to play this race, you're considered a medium humanoid with a walking speed of 30 feet. You gain a trait titled Astral Knowledge. That's the one that you can gain knowledge from those that have died in the Astral Sea. And when you finish a long rest, you gain proficiency in one skill and one weapon or tool of your choice until the end of your next long rest, when you get to choose them all over again. You also gain some innate spellcasting thanks to the trait called Gif Yankee Psionics. You know the Mage Hand cantrip, and it's invisible when cast.
Cool.
At 3rd level, you gain access to the jump spell, And at 5th level, you gain Misty Step. As with the fairy, once you cast either of the leveled spells, you can't do so until you finish a long rest or use a spell slot at the appropriate level. And, once again, you get to choose your spellcasting modifier when selecting this race. Your options are, once again, Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. You also gain resistance to psychic damage. It's a hard one to gain resistance to.
Oh, yeah.
Spirit Totem Gif Yankee, here we go. All of the resistances. That's just dirty.
Especially in the right campaign. Like when Spelljammer rolls around, you would not be in a bad position to just choose a native of the Astral Sea to begin with.
Not at all. Especially if you can live indefinitely, as long as you don't get killed.
There's a lot worse you could do, I'll tell you that. That's for sure.
We can't talk about the Gif Yankee and not talk about the Gith Zerai. That would simply be cruel and unusual. They went on a great migration to the ever-changing chaos of Limbo in the aftermath of their schism from the Gif Yankee. Using their psionic powers, they formed a home for themselves amid the maelstrom of ever-splitting and reforming matter that comprises Limbo.
They live in Limbo?
They live in Limbo.
They live in the chaotic neutral plane of Limbo.
Yes.
I just had to make sure.
Yeah, and they use their mind powers to form a safe haven within Limbo for themselves. They share the same skin tones as their cousins, and due to countless eons honing their psionics to establish that safety in Limbo, they've gained the ability to not only protect themselves, but to also probe the minds of others. The Gith Zerai are medium humanoids and have a walking speed of 30 feet. Thanks to their psionic powers, they have access to a few spells innately. Starting when you choose this race, you immediately know the Mage Hand cantrip, and it's invisible when cast, same as the Gith Yankee.
Classic.
At 3rd level, you gain the Shield spell, and at 5th level, you gain Detect Thoughts. Once you cast either of the leveled spells with this trait, can't do so until you finish a long rest or use a spell slot. And
those are not insignificant spells for a wizard.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Those are known prepared spells you don't have to worry about.
And a free use of shield. Yeah, and
Yes.
not having to take up a spot in your spellbook for shield or detect thoughts.
Especially because I've done it for detect thoughts.
Yeah.
You know? If your campaign shifts suddenly from combat, you're a little closer to the end, and then it segues into a difficult political intrigue portion, it's nice to not have to worry about balancing out your prepared spells for that, and
Or
just
ritually
having
casting it.
one or the other at your disposal.
As with the other two races so far, you choose your casting modifier when selecting this race. Your options are still the same. It's still Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. That doesn't change. You have resistance to psychic damage, as does the Gith Yankee, because they're cousins. They used to be together. And you have advantage on saving throws against being charmed or frightened.
I like that.
That's just a racial trait you have.
I like that racial trait.
That's a good one. That is a good one.
Yeah. That's a fun one. I like the Gith Zerai. If I were playing a wizard out on the Astral Sea, that would probably be toward the top of the list, especially with the... Well, you could play a few things with the options to base your spell casting on a few different things. I really like opening it up like that. But having shield, like a +5 AC as a reaction, boy, that's just nice to have in your back pocket. Especially
you're
if
a resident
you could throw up for it.
Do bards get shield?
I do believe it's a magical secrets thing. That's the only way you can get it, and that would be at 10th level for every bard, 6th level for lore bards.
Alright, so you can get shield at 3rd level as a bard if you were to play a Gith Zerai.
A bard that has traveled the Astral Sea. Boy, the stories you could tell.
Next up, we have the Goblin, which first made its debut as a playable race in 5e in Volo's Guide to Monsters, and has appeared once more in Multiverse of Monsters. Goblins often live underground and near hobgoblins and bugbears. They have an unnatural sense for finding the weak spots on enemies larger than themselves and for escaping trouble. They brought these traits with them when they ventured to the material plane from the Feywild. Yeah, that's right. goblins are originally from the Feywild. At least now they are. I don't know how I feel.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that, but we're rolling with it. They are fierce and cunning, pursuing their own destiny regardless of what gods or other immortals may want of them, because in their history they were pawns to the gods, and they don't like that. They're like, fuck off. We're doing our own thing now.
I can respect that.
Now, if you choose this race, you are considered both humanoid and goblinoid, and are a small creature. You have a walking speed of 30 feet and dark vision out to 60 feet.
Classic.
Thanks to your Fey ancestry, though, you have advantage against being charmed. So you do get a little bit from being Fey, I guess. And sometimes being small has its benefits, such as the case with Fury of the Small. When a creature larger than yourself takes damage caused by you, whether by an attack or a spell, you can cause that attack or spell to deal extra damage equal to your proficiency bonus, and can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, but only once per turn, and all expended uses come back at the end of a long rest. You can also take the disengage and hide actions as a bonus action.
Oh.
Now,
oh, wow.
This race does have a few noticeable differences from its first appearance. The first being, you choose which scores to bump now versus the standard +2 to Dex and +1 to Con given in Volos. The second is how Fury of the Small works. In Volos, the added damage equaled your level, and you could only use the trait once per short or long rest. Now might be a good time to also mention that both Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes and Volo's Guide to Monsters are listed as discontinued on D&D Beyond. That might be due to some of the racial changes, but I don't know the reasoning for certain. If you have Volos on D&D Beyond, or even if you don't have it, you can just go look under the sources on D&D Beyond, and both of them are labeled as discontinued. But if you have Volos, and you look up the Goblin race, it's now listed as Legacy. Again, not sure what that means, but it might be similar to how previous Star Wars canon is considered Legends now. If they're trying to do it away with that, I don't know, but it's weird how it's listed as Legacy.
Well, oh man, that's hard to tell.
Personally, I do not like how the new Fury of the Small works. I don't like it.
No, what happened to it? Like, what's the problem you see there?
It deals less damage, and it only comes back on a long rest now.
Right. Yeah.
Before, I was a level 10 Goblin. Before, I could do 10 damage once per short rest. Now I can do my proficiency bonus a number of times equal to my proficiency bonus over the course of some turns. That's cool. That's only going to give you 3-4 damage a turn, and your proficiency bonus at that point again is only going to be 3 or 4. So yeah, it'll eventually add up to more damage, but it just doesn't have that punch. It took away a punch, and that's what I don't like about it. And it took away the short rest. If they would have kept the short rest reset on Fury of the Small, I could have gotten behind it. But the fact they changed it to long rest only, I don't like that change.
That could be considered a nerf of the Goblin.
Yeah,
very much so.
Which is upsetting because the Goblin out of Bolos is so fun to play. I've made a few Goblins and they are just so fun. Next up, we've got the Minotaur. Minotaur, I don't know, I don't care how you pronounce it.
Let's call the whole thing off.
It's previously appeared in both the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica and Mythic Odysseys of Theros. And it looks like Wizards of the Coast wasn't done with him yet. And yes, there's a highly intriguing difference with the abilities in Multiverse of Monsters versus their previous iterations.
Change the Minotaur again!
Yeah, for the third time.
Do it again!
They are massive, well-muscled humanoids with the head of a bull and have an exceptional sense of direction, and it's said they were first created by the Lady of Pain, the ruler of Sigil, to patrol the magical mazes that she traps her foes in.
That tracks.
I like that origin story of the Minotaur.
That's super cool, yeah. Yeah, that goes along with, like, the great Greek myth.
Yeah.
You know, that really tracks with that, yeah.
If you choose to play this race, you're considered a medium humanoid with a walking speed of 30 feet. You can use your horns in place of unarmed strikes, dealing 1d6 plus your strength mod piercing damage versus the normal bludgeoning damage of an unarmed strike. And if you take the dash action and move at least 20 feet, you can use your bonus action to make a melee attack with your horns.
Ah, you're goring someone. That's great.
You also gain an ability called Hammering. Immediately after you hit a creature as part of the attack action, you can use your bonus action to try to use your horns and shove the target 10 feet away from you. Requires them to make a strength save with the DC equaling 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your strength modifier.
Yeah, you're really goring them, dude.
So,
keep going.
Thank God they didn't make you go mad for that.
Yeah.
As a Minotaur, you should already be building into strength. You should be playing a strength-based character if you're gonna be a Minotaur. The last ability you get is called Labyrinthian Recall. Try saying that 5 times fast.
Labyrinth.
Exactly. Took me like 10
not.
minutes to try to figure out how to pronounce that yesterday. With Labyrinthian Recall, you always know which direction is north, and you have advantage on any survival check made to navigate or track.
Nice.
So far, this all sounds the same as the other Minotaur appearances. Like I mentioned earlier, something's being left out. Do you know, or can you guess? I'll give the audience a moment to think about it, and while we do, Justin, do you know the difference? What is being left out?
I don't know, man. I didn't see. I'm a player, so I don't really look at the monsters all that much.
This is a race.
Yeah, but I didn't have it.
That's
Sorry.
fair. That's fair.
Sorry. No, I don't know what it is.
Okay.
I've never looked into a Minotaur. You know I don't play strength-based characters.
That's
on.
fair. But I didn't know with all the reading you do about D&D, you know. Anyway, the lack of this ability really upsets me because I thought it added a lot to the Minotaur and just gave it that little extra oomph. It's missing the imposing presence ability, the one that gave you proficiency in either intimidation or persuasion. Why would they get rid of this?
Oh.
It's a free proficiency on something that's really cool. Minotaurs are intimidating as fuck. Why are you getting rid of that?
Yeah, that totally fits. Like, and it's innocuous. It's not going to break the game or anything. No.
Exactly. The last race I'm going to cover today is one that I believe is a Multiverse of Monsters original. Audience, please correct me if this has appeared somewhere else in 5e and I just missed it.
We want discussion. Leave a comment.
We're talking about the Shifter.
Please.
Sometimes called Were-Touched, as they are descendants of those who have contracted some form of lycanthropy. Shifters can't fully change shape as their ancestors did, but can for a short time call forth and enhance their bestial aspect.
Oh, so they're like quarter-wear things.
Yeah. The Shifters often have large eyes and pointy ears, as well as prominent canine teeth, and have fur-like hair that covers the majority of their body, as one would expect from a descendant of a lycanthrope. The book has a table that you can either roll on or choose from to decide your lycanthropic ancestry, as well as your suggested shifting option. Some of the ancestor options are were-bear, were-wolf, were-tiger, or were-boar. There's other ones there, and honestly, you can get as creative as you want. Just work with your DM. DMs are happy to help you. It's what we're here for. We want you to have fun.
A warehouse cat.
And the 4 shifting options are Beast-Hide, which you gain 1d6 additional temporary HP, meaning it stacks if you already have temp HP, and that does play into another ability that happens with this race. And while shifted, your AC increases by 1.
Nice.
Next one is Swift Stride. I swear they're trying to make me fuck up words.
They're really working on it, man. They're really trying out there.
While shifted, your speed increases by 10 feet, and you can move up to 10 feet as a reaction if a creature ends its turn within 5 feet of you, and that movement does not provoke an attack of opportunity.
That's nice.
Yeah.
It's a little soft, like Misty Step, right?
Right, pretty much. You just use your reaction. Like, I'm just going to move 10 feet away from you.
I don't want to be here.
Exactly.
Quick disengage.
Next option is Long Tooth. When you shift, and as a bonus action on each turn while shifted, You can use your fangs to make an unarmed strike. It deals damage equal to 1d6 plus your strength mod.
Okay.
So, the different way to have an unarmed strike. It's kind of cool. It's only 1d6, so I wish that would scale. It's what. All right. Next one is Wild Hunt.
Homebrew that shit.
Well shifted, you have advantage on wisdom checks, and as long as you are not incapacitated, no creature within 30 feet of you can make an attack with advantage against you unless you are incapacitated.
Ooh! That's fun.
Yeah,
I really like. You're never getting caught off guard.
No.
No.
Most they're ever doing is a standard attack roll against you as long as they're within 30
there's
feet of
so many things you can get out of with that.
Yeah.
There are so many goddamn things you can get out of that. That's a great.
If enemies are flanking you, they're still not getting advantage.
Oh man,
That's nice.
that's a good one. What else is there?
If you choose to play this race, you're a medium humanoid with a walking speed of 30 feet.
Classic.
Your bestial instincts give you proficiency in one of the following skills: acrobatics, athletics, intimidation, or survival. You get to choose. You get dark vision out to 60 feet. To shift into your bestial form, you use a bonus action and it lasts for a minute until you die, or until you use another bonus action to shift back to normal. When you shift, you gain temporary HP equal to twice your proficiency bonus, and can shift a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. That's potentially a lot of free temp HP if you're just shifting in and out.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot you can do with that to try and control the battlefield. Bounce around. This strikes me as it's hard to determine what class I would play with this one.
Now, I will
What do
point
you
out,
think?
because it wasn't clearly stated, the shifting options, you choose one, and that's the one you stick with for your entire time as that character.
Right. Right. But you can get like additional temporary HP if you do the B-side thing.
As much as we shit on the monk, I could see this being a really good monk race.
I think so too. Man, like
just
not a cat.
in the same way that a Tabaxi makes a great monk race, I think the shifter would
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
the,
just that
the extra
little-
movement, the temp HP, whatever you want it to be, it just that seems.
You can do the temp HP, or you can get that swift stride, which would really help if you
right.
you got a lot you can do.
Because
but,
even if you take Swift Stride, you're still getting temp HP equal to twice your proficiency bonus every time you shift.
Yep.
So
Oh yeah, that's the one I think.
yeah.
Oh
Now-
man.
Real quick, I want to go over something with the Yanti. We know them all as
Yep.
snake people that look like snakes that are just also like they stand up straight and whatever. There was a whole debate on D&D memes
They're like
about
Naga
snake titties.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They changed it to be more like a dragon ancestry one, where only one aspect of your appearance is snake-like, whether you have glowing eyes or a slit tongue. You're no longer looking like a snake. You look like a human with one aspect of a snake.
Huh.
So they changed that entirely.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. And I've read something else because girlfriend is more interested in this race. Another reptile, lizard folk. They no longer canonically eat sentient like people, like other races. It doesn't explicitly list that in their entry as far as the multiverse goes. So you can still flavor that in. Talk with
Right.
your DM.
And then
Talk with your party.
the satyr got one slight change as well. Before, the unarmed strike for the satyr did 1d4 plus something. They bumped that to 1d6. Just
That's
another
fair.
quick little change. Audience, if you want to see more of the races covered in this book, let us know. Happy to go over them. I love looking
Talk
into
to
this
us.
stuff.
Talk to us, guys. Interact with us. Be sure to like this video, especially if you made it this far. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. New videos every Monday and Thursday. You know it. You'll love it. From Brady and I, and all the good people that provide us with content at D&D, Wizards of the Coast, and those at D&D Beyond. Thanks from us to the viewers, especially. Love you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.